you mentioned a little bit about what got you interested in psychology to study it. Were there any books that influenced you?
Um, well, I think my interest in photography just came through observation in everyday life. It wasn't so much from literature. I think that came afterwards, when you first
Okay.
start to study it. But I think after I did photography for quite some years, it felt to me, well, I fell sick, so I had to change careers. I was kind of like forced into it because I had to travel a lot for photography.
Okay.
And so I needed to find like a new career. And it felt to me that photography was such uh, it felt very much like this is an outward from me kind of expression or way of communicating.
Yeah.
It was very one directional. And because of that, I felt that it was almost, I'm not saying that photography as a trade or photographers in general are like this, but at least for me, it felt very self-serving in a lot of
Interesting.
ways.
Yeah.
And I think as I grew older, the change into um, interest and well-being in other people
Okay.
took precedence over that. And I felt psychology was part of just to get to learn more about people, but
Mhm.
also um, perhaps by chance or if possible to at least help someone. Uh, and I felt that was more important at that moment.
What are what
So
what are some concepts in psychology that really strike you?
um, perception, I think.
Ah,
Perception based on both introspection, but also perception of how we view the world and other people in general, and how widely different it can be depending on the individual and their background and experience and the way they are thinking, the genetics of how our mind is put together. There's a lot of difference in the way we perceive and observe and act in the world. And I think a lot of it is, well, it's interesting, but it's also potential potential trap for miscommunication.
yeah.
And so I think when it comes to that, perception and communication is probably what I find the most interesting with psychology. There's tons of different interesting fields in psychology, but that's at least what my where my core lies at. I think communication.
So do you think the world would kind of be better off, or even like our own communities, right? As big or small as they may be, the importance of taking a step back and understanding that these are just my perceptions of the world. They aren't necessarily reality. And I have to be considerate that other people have different perceptions and views, right?
Yeah, well, I think tolerance and the understanding that I think from an early age, we tend to view and regard the world from our own perspective and
Yeah.
solely and purely from that. And we can learn about other people, but we'll still filter it through our own moral compass, our own perception again of what's right and wrong. What would I like? Like people can do what they want, but as long as they don't um, uh, like hurt other people and things, it goes through your filters,
Yeah.
so to speak. But to really kind of understand the diversity and the complexity of human beings, I think that capability of understanding, or at least, yeah, understanding that we do perceive the world or can perceive the world quite differently, and concepts in general, what's right and wrong, and So sorry, I lost my thread.
So how do you get more people to understand that we're all kind of filtering the world through our own
I think
filter in a way?
yeah, I mean, I don't think I have like a great solution to shape the world. I would try my best to make sure that I communicate what I want as precise and correctly as I can. I do like to turn every stone and to find every angle. I'm not always able to do that, but to the best of my ability, that's what I'm aiming for at least. And if I can do that, and perhaps influence like some other people, then that's kind of like a little a step in the right direction, perhaps. I do think there's a lot of things to be improved when it comes to educational systems in terms of philosophy and psychology and the ways we think and how we think and what we're used to and how we are used to or the norm for how we are supposed to think. And I think it's easy to introduce psychology on a basic level of raising awareness of self-awareness and others' awareness from quite an early age without it being imposed as some indoctrination of something weird. And and so I think psychology, even philosophy, should be part of a curriculum from an early age.
What kind of philosophy? Do you have any examples?
I think not to impose a specific moral philosophy, but the ability that there are moral philosophies, and that by now there are several different ones. Just to have all the information spread out from an early age from children, because I think kids are quite perceptive. They're quite smart, and probably a lot more than we give them credit for. So I think if you implement that in a wise and clever and non-intrusive way, it might help a little bit, but who knows?
Yeah. What's the education system like in Norway?
Well, we do have a standard European thing with universal or free education. So we do start like with everyone, like the primary education. It's I think it's fairly normal, I would say.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if it's how different it is from American systems.
I'm not sure if it's that much different. Go through primary and then middle school and high school and then it's college. To put just the stepping stones of it. But
is college paid for in Norway?
Yeah, it's free, but you can also go to private schools if you want to. But they're still far cheaper than in the States. And it's kind of more common to go to universities like state universities, which are kind of also regarded as better universities than the private ones, and harder to get into as well. So, but the educational system like that, in terms of that everyone has the opportunity to do whatever they want, is quite it's a good they have a good offer here.
I feel like Scandinavian countries are like the few countries that do that, paid for secondary education, or is that Europe too?
I think it's Europe in general. Europe in general has free education for the most part, but I guess there are other countries that have probably more lucrative private schools as well. But as a general rule of thumb, education is free, And I mean, in Norway, it is, I say it is free, but you know, like you have to pay for books and stuff yourself. But
Yeah, but like, okay.
but you get like student loans, which you are entitled to have no matter your background and everything like that. As long as you get into the school,
Uh-huh.
you can have a student loan, and you can get I think it's up to 8 years that they will
Okay.
provide tuition fees if you're going to a private school. But if you're going to a state university, it doesn't cost you anything. But sometimes people take student loans just to have money to like pocket money, you know,
Yeah.
to live.